Hey there, IAOA and Collabcast listeners. Thanks for joining me. I'm Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from, I got to say, mostly cloudy Hendersonville, Tennessee today, part of the Nashville area. We've seen sun for so long. It's been toasty, muggy here, and I'm due for a little relief. We've got some 80s today, few clouds and a little bit of sunshine, but all in all, I'm ready for fall. We've had summer, and I'm ready for fall to get here. Besides that, I'm starting to watch football games, and who doesn't love football in the fall, right? So I have with me today, you're going to love his smiling face, because this guy is everybody's best friend, Billy Wagner from Florida, the great state of Florida. He's been an IAOA supporter, I don't know, since almost day one. And we're so lucky to have him on today, and you guys are going to love listening to his story and what all the wisdom he has to share with us. Billy, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Captain Dave. It's an honor to be with you, and I look forward to helping as many agents as we can today.
I appreciate that, because that's what we're here for, to help folks, mostly insurance agents, but anybody else who's listening. And they're going to love to listen to what you have to say, because you've got to be full of more wisdom. And by the way, I got to tell you, I don't think Billy knows this, because he's one of the most humble people you'll ever meet on the planet. He's going to speak this October in Chicago at Innovation 23, which is IAOA's annual conference. This will be your how many time with our conference, Billy?
I've been to every one since San Antonio, so I just missed the first one in California.
Okay.
And I've spoken at, I think, the last five, so it's been a fun run.
This is his fifth. This will be your fifth this October, speaking from on the stage. Here's the deal. You guys don't know this. I keep track of this. I send out a survey to all the attendees, because they're the ones who hear him in the audience when he speaks on stage, all of our presenters. And it's not a disgrace to be ranked number 2 and have Billy ranked ahead of you at number 1, because he's been number 1 every time he's spoken at our conference. You didn't know that. I don't think I've ever shared that with you, but that is the truth. It's a fact. So I can't tell you enough how much, on behalf of myself and on behalf of every IAOA member who's listened to you speak in the audience, from the audience, and you on stage sharing your wisdom and knowledge, our members have spoken loud and clear that's why they love having you come back year after year, and not only be there to, hobnob with in the hallways and during the receptions and breaks and meals, but also to listen to you on stage. So kudos to you, my good sir. Kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's amazing to hear. And it's important to me, because I feel like agents, they don't need to start at the bottom of the mountain. And what IAOA is a helping hand, and I think the culture of helping each other is really important, and I'm glad to play a part and play a role in that. And I always get energy, and I can tell you that IAOA, like many others, has drastically changed my life. And the relationships that have been formed and how I've been able to evolve and change has been very impactful to me. So I'm constantly feel like I'm in debt to it. So constantly trying to give back whenever I can.
Awesome. Good to you, and good on you. And thank you for being as humble and supportive as you are. So I like to, with all of my Collabcast guests, start at the very beginning. We'll talk about the whole sexy insurance topic in a minute. But before we get to that, I want to talk to, find out about, having our listeners find out about you personally. So are you a native Floridian?
I am.
Wow.
So yeah, I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's where I went to school, and had a great growing up. Very supportive parents, and when I went to college, I only went 2.5 hours away. Moved a little bit north. Yep.
UCF is in Orlando, right?
Yep, it's in Orlando. And then as I was in school there, got started in the restaurant business, and as I was going to school, I kept working my way up through the ranks in that company. And then they transferred me and moved me to Jacksonville, and I was the youngest person to ever run a restaurant there, and had 70 employees, and that's kind of, I had a 10-year career in the restaurant business, and I managed multiple stores and had hundreds and hundreds of managers and employees, and really learned a lot about how to balance a P&L and how to, operate a business and how to deal with people, which is always the hardest part of any business. And then around 2005, I started saying, I want to start a family. And I started putting together a vision and a mission of what I wanted to accomplish next, and realized that the restaurant business was not the best place to do that. Lots of nights and weekends and holidays and never ending stuff that's happening and going on. And so just did some research and found the insurance business. And I was like, this is very interesting. And I noticed how there were some people that were very successful in it, and there were also some people that were not doing a very good job. And I could see that there was an opportunity to come in and do it differently. And started my own agency with a friend, really. And he had a vision for opening and doing more. And so in 2006, in January, I took a leap of faith. I left a very high-paying job and said, I'm going to start over and do it from scratch. And started with 0 clients, 0 policies, and I worked for somebody for 6 months for free so I could learn the business. And then I was ready to kind of go out and just get the business going.
So you're not all good looks. You got a couple brains too up there. Work for somebody for free and learn. That's about as smart as you can get, because most people just jump in, can't skip a paycheck and just try and figure it out. But so this is the area I want to focus on for a few minutes here. So the words you used was, I found the insurance industry. I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of people I've talked to in my career and ask them, how did you get into insurance? And did you study for it? Did you plan to? And they're all like, oh, no, I just stumbled into it. And you sound no different. You just stumbled it. So tell us how you came to find or stumble into the insurance industry, because you started with Brightway, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So walk us through that decision-making process. How did you land on Brightway? Who else did you consider? Did you talk to somebody on the golf course and you said, hey, I'm doing well, you should consider this career? How'd that all happen?
Sure. It's a great question. Honestly, I remember distinctly in 2004, we had a house fire, and my wife and I had bought our first home, and we had renovated the kitchen and, put all of our money into it. And the whole house burned to the ground. And It was before I was in the insurance industry. They rescued my dog, brought him to emergency vet, but the whole house was gone. And I remember kind of, really difficult, like to have everything that you own just gone. And so I didn't know a whole lot about insurance, and I started to try to figure out kind of what kind of policy do we have and what's covered and what's not covered. And there was definitely a lot of things that there were gaps, right? And so I went and got the advice of someone that was in the industry. And oddly enough, the person that introduced me to my wife also introduced me to the founder of Brightway. So this is my neighbor. And so very important person in my life, really kind of changed everything that I was doing. But at that time, I wanted to do something different. So I was out there searching. So I was just asking questions. I was meeting with people. I was trying to understand, and I'm very entrepreneurial. So I wanted to kind of do something on my own. That I knew. Right. And so I went to him for advice, and he was just getting started. And I had the opportunity. I could have gone with Nationwide. I could have done an Allstate agency. And I also I could have went out and been independent at that time. And there wasn't a whole lot of resources, to do that. But I liked what his vision was for it. And, I kind of just jumped on that, vision that he wanted to create. And, I was part of Brightway before it was Brightway, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think he had like 1 or 2 other offices. I was like the 3rd or the 4th office that opened up under that umbrella. and we did really well. We were very successful. We were, as he was growing, we were figuring a lot of things out and helping. And I remember, just doing. I remember when we wrote like $20,000 in premium for the first week, and we thought, we had just did something that never had been done before, at that time. And
Well, think about it though. The premiums are a lot lower than they are
yeah,
today.
we
So
were doing
20,000
600.
is pretty substantial.
Yeah, we were doing 600 a year policies, right? So they were very small,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
we had figured out how to develop relationships and those kind of things. And about 2 years into it, he had the vision of he wanted to do this territories and expand, and I kind of helped him through that process. Like, how do we do that? How do we build it? And I was the first one to say, let me do this. And I bought the franchise rights and I built 10 locations out. Um, and that was a cool run. And we did a really, really, really lots of good stuff. And we had a messy kitchen. We knew what was working, what wasn't working, and figured all that stuff out. And, there's a lot of different options, and a lot of people will say, hey, why did you go that route? Why did you do, and what I
sure.
learned is when you put your focus on the right things, good things will happen. And so I was laser focused on a couple of things. One is building relationships. Two was having an amazing experience. So when somebody called my office, it was going to be different. They were going to feel different. They were going to experience a different way. And so that experience and relationships were what the foundation of everything we did. We were like, how can I make it this a little bit better? How can I make this a little bit better? And when I didn't have to focus on some of the other things that you have to focus on, I was able to nail those things. And we were very successful in building relationships and also having an amazing experience. And I think that's truly at the foundation of what makes our thing work is those two fundamentals.
So when you say building relationships, yeah, I think you're referring to building relationships with your clientele base. But are you talking about relationships with others, like mortgage referral partners, other people like that too?
Yeah, I mean that's really been our strategy is deep relationships with folks, and the way that we do that is just internally. When you first start out running a business, you're doing everything, right? So you're taking out the
Oh, for
trash,
sure. All the
you're
hats. Yep.
cleaning it, you're doing everything, and you're doing the admin side, you're doing the marketing, and you're doing the binding. And what I made it a priority to make building relationships at the foundation. So I blocked off time every single day to do that. And I was very intentional about it. I had a system that I built, a plan. I knew what I was asking people, and I was just trying to figure out how I could add value to them. And over time, we've evolved that. And, now each one of my agents, I have 9 sales agents, and they're having a cup of coffee once a week with a potential center of influence. And we've
Hmm.
taught them how to basically be valuable, and find out from that person what value is to them, because it's different for everyone. And we
Right.
built a system around coming up with different ways that we can show up and be different and be a true partner and a resource. And so we probably have about 500 of those meetings a year, and we've been doing that for about 8 years. And so you can imagine we have close to 1,000 solid, consistent relationships that trust us over time. We've done a good job and earned their trust, and we've maintained it. And that's really been, at the center of what makes us go, because all of our business comes in via that referral relationship. And so we
Hmm.
don't do hardly any other type of marketing. So that's really kind of at the source of where all of our business comes from.
And aren't some of your presentations when you go out to see the industry, it could be in Florida or wherever, isn't part of your message be different?
Hmm.
Isn't
Yeah.
that, I mean, in 2 words, that's what you say, talk a lot about, right?
Yeah, we say show up like nobody else, right? Like no one else has come.
Hmm.
And I always think about like what's going on in the mind of those people. What are they thinking about when somebody walks in or tries to send them an email or a phone call? We basically try to pattern interrupt them where they're not expecting us to say something or do something. And so we've come up with all kinds of creative ways to, again, be different, as you said, and show up like nobody else. I mean, we we had shot glasses made that say, give us a shot, and we'd go on Friday afternoon and drop those off just as something fun to do differently. And then, over time, what we've done is we understand that people are happiest when they're growing. And so we try to provide growth opportunities. So we created we're working on right now our own CE class to get it certified, but we've done tons of classes to real estate agents and lenders and educating them and helping them and doing it in an entertaining, funny way where it's not boring like insurance tends to be. And we also created an event called Elevate the Elite, which is our top 1% real estate agents in our marketplace. So the top basically 500 realtors. And we built a community similar to IAOA for real estate agents. And we put on mastermind events. We bring in best-selling speakers. We had John Gordon come speak to us. It's exclusive. You have to be in that top 1%, and very successful people want to be around other very successful people. And we have done all kinds of things like game show antics. We do, we do like a Slido presentation, which if you're not using Slido, I would highly recommend. And this is why people like to hear me speak, because I like to give tangible things that you can actually do and take away. But Slido is
let me interrupt for spell Slido for those that don't know.
It's Slido, and it is
real simple.
It is a presentation software that you can embed inside of a PowerPoint. And so we use it in our presentations. I've used it in keynote speeches before, but it basically gets the audience on the same page. You can ask questions. I use it with my staff when we're trying to figure out where the best restaurants are, what everyone likes to eat for lunch, all that kind of stuff. So it puts the question on there, and it's kind of similar to like Survey Monkey, where you kind of get the data, but it's real time. So we put on an event for the real estate agents, and we say, what's the number one challenge you're facing? And what we found is, just like in the insurance business, and what my speech was on last year was the top 5 things that you're going to face. What are they? They're the same, right? So we figured out what they are, and then we break them into groups, and you got a bunch of successful people brainstorming how to solve their number one challenge, and then we do a share out afterwards. So the content is not hard to create, but nobody misses it. So the room sells out every time we do it, and there's a waiting list generally, and generally there's about 100 people in that room when we put on one of those events, and
in person, right? Not virtual, in person.
In person, and there's a lot of energy, and it's if you're not there, you feel like you're missing out, right? And so all the other realtors are seeing it, and so it creates this success environment. And we've also got a Facebook page that goes with it, so they can ask questions in there. And again, the lenders want to meet those folks too, right? So you can be that connected piece that connects people together and helps them succeed. So that's been a really great, a different way, again, to show up differently. Like, I'm not bringing donuts to them. I am saying, let's work together. Let me help you grow. And, I've also helped them, like how they run their meetings, or, different things that I've learned about business. I'm also helping them as well. Like if, the broker wants to, work on things, I can be that resource for them.
Mm-hmm. So you bring up realtors and mortgage lenders. Who's the actual individual that you target when you're going to visit someone first time? Is it the in the trenches loan originator, or is it the owner or high up manager? Who is it that you're talking to?
Yeah, so with anything, there's a land, air, and sea approach, right? So you do a bunch of different ways, and you kind of see what works the best. What works the best in our environment is to do it as part of a transaction. So we have a system so that when we onboard a new client, we ask who the realtor and who the lender is on every single transaction that we do. And the reason we do it is we want to know who that is, but we also want to make it easy for the client. So we want to tell them, like, hey, we'll work together and make sure that it's an easy process for you. But what we've also done is gather that information, because we need to get them involved anyway. So it's a good opening dialogue to say, hey, we're working with this person. We want to also make it easy on you. And so internally through that transaction, we prove ourselves and show that we do a good job. So versus bringing donuts to someone, you're saying, this is somebody that somebody else trusted. It came from a referral, and whether it be the realtor or the lender side of it, and then we reinforce the relationship that that person has with that lender or realtor. So we're telling them, hey, you're working with one of the best. We work really easily well with them, and we're going to make this as easy as possible for you. And so that's just part of our process. So then after the transaction closes, then we're trying to establish a more detailed relationship with them. So we'll call them afterwards and just say, hey, I really enjoyed working with you on the Johnson closing. I know you're busy, but I just want to spend a couple minutes with you so that when we run into each other again, we know exactly how you want things done and who you want it sent to and what you want, how you want it to be listed. We just want to, again, whenever you see our name, you go, oh, this is going to be easy. And you go, phew, I'm glad they're working on it. And so that's our introduction to them is let's just spend a few minutes. And then we send them an email, and the email has a flip book magazine that shows how we're different and what we do that's different and how we give back to the community and how we make the process easy and how we reinforce them. And then our next ask is to just give us an opportunity or to meet us for coffee or let us buy you lunch or let us do something to deepen the relationship. Because once the relationship is solidified, then you're good. Then things are starting to happen, right? And they'll once they make that decision, they'll spend the rest of the time knowing you, trying to reinforce that they made the right decision, right? And so how do you build that relationship? And we've got some ways that, again, we show up differently and we offer things. We don't do any spiffs or any of that kind of stuff, but we do things to help them add value, right? So that's just one way to go about it, but there's a lot of different directions that we go from there, but that's kind of our system. And then we're trying to also create a meeting with them where we can go in and teach their agents, right? So we don't want them to have any problems. So we have a fun and an engaging 1 hour presentation that we do that, the realtors love. We make it funny and they are also learning. And so that's our next step is to try to go in there, because once we have one person that gets us in the door, now we want to go talk to their group and then build a relationship from there. So we're doing it kind of from the inside and not from the outside, right? So we've done the other stuff, and sometimes when a new agent is onboarding, they're trying all that other stuff and they're going to drop off the shot glasses and trying to visit them that way. It works. The sheer volume of it will eventually work, but it's not the very best way to go about it.
Okay. So mortgage lenders and realtors, majority obviously of those referral sources are property. You're leading with property. Do you have any partners where you're leading with auto? Presuming on a personal.
Yeah, so we do have some relationships with financial planners and those kind of folks that basically look at it from a protection standpoint of like they need an umbrella and the auto. But we have a very cool system that we built that when they come in with the property, that we cross-sell them on all the other lines of business.
Sure.
And that system, no one's doing it in the industry as far as I'm concerned that I've seen the way that we're doing it. And it's one of those things that I identified early on in my career that, we could write the property pretty well because we had a lot of options and we weren't competing with the large State Farms and Geicos on the property side, but we weren't penetrating with the auto. And so I built like a 5-step system to make sure that every single time we do a transaction that we have like 5 checkpoints that we hit on to make sure that we're getting the rest of the lines of business. And I'm happy to go deeper into that, but yeah, that's kind of we basically cross-sell the rest of it as part of our process.
Okay. So let's pause here for a second. Give us kind of an idea of what your current agency looks like. So you're primarily in Ponte Vedra Beach, which is South Jacksonville, and you're on the coast, correct?
Yes.
Or close to it. And you're also like minutes away from TPC Sawgrass. So any of you who are golfers know that's a nice track. And so I'm just curious because I looked on the map before we started talking. Does the fact that you're that close to a quality golf course have anything to do with the way you do business based on where you're located?
That's a good question. No, I think we're in an amazing community, and it's used to be a secret, and now a lot of people are finding out about it. It's, this
Yeah. Lots of new construction
yeah, this
too, right?
area is absolutely exploding, and it's not done. And it's got some of the best school systems in the country. So when people search, like, I want to move to Florida, like, it's one of the school systems that show
Hmm.
up. And we've got these new communities that are cities and all to themselves. They've got their own water parks, and they've got three or four schools, and
Hmm.
everything's there. But we're surrounded by water. We're surrounded by golf courses. They're absolutely everywhere. They're beautiful courses. And so if you are, somebody that is an outdoorsman, you like to be on the water and be on the boat, we have the St. Johns River, we've got the ocean,
Hmm.
they combine into each other, and it just goes throughout the middle of our city. And so it's a great place, and I'm just so blessed to be here, and this is home forever. I've been here probably 25 years now, and I'll never live anywhere else.
And Brightway is your only agency that you've had,
Yeah.
correct?
So yeah.
Almost 18
Yep.
years. Almost 18 years with
Yep.
Brightway. So that's amazing. So, uh, back to my question. Give us an idea what your agency looks like. So, do you have brick and mortar,
Yep.
correct? Do you have more than one brick and mortar
So
location?
I used to have 10, and then I sold nine of them to focus on, and we built a 5 million revenue agency with 10 locations over the first 10 years of my career. And then I peeled
Hmm.
off the other nine and kept the most successful agent that was in Ponte Vedra Beach. And then now we're about a year and a half away from building it to another 5 million revenue with one location. And so that's kind of I built my dream house 3.5 miles from where I work. I built our dream office. We built a state-of-the-art location, bought the building, and basically put technology all over it. And I was like, okay, if I was going to build an agency of the future, what would it look like? And so we did that. We've got nine agents that are in office, in the main home office for us. And then we've got other folks that are remote and virtual. And, so we've got nine sales agents, and we've got two junior producers, and then we've got the rest is admin team. So we call them the A team. They're our administrative team. And I realized, like, some of my younger folks didn't even know who the A team was, but but that's the name for them.
Hmm.
And they help us kind of with the onboarding of clients, client concierge, some of the administrative side, and we're writing all referral based, so we get over 5,000 referrals a year. And we're writing this year, we're going to write, like, we're on pace to do 10.5 million in new green business, and then about another 2 to 2.5 million in rewritten business, which, clients get non-renewed or canceled. We've got to rewrite them. So we're over
Hmm.
$12.5 million in total production. We're doing about a million a month in new transactions. And it's based on, we've built an assembly line, but we've also built really solid agents that know what they're doing. They know how to protect people. They've been trained, most of them trained for 12 weeks just to be a junior producer and work underneath somebody else. And they do that for about a year before they can validate to become an agent. And they have to have $1 million book of business, and they have to show the ability to cross sell and multi line their book to protect people. If they're not writing umbrellas or life insurance or auto insurance with the home, they won't make it to the next level. And we also secret shop every single client, or not every single client, we secret shop multiple times a month to make sure that our experience is being followed and building rapport and cross selling. We validate it essentially. And so if they can
Hmm.
validate themselves, they build five new referral relationships. And this is something that we just started doing. And again, it's very impactful to give your team a pathway, light it up for them, and say, here's where you need to go next. Because again, as we mentioned earlier, no one gets into this business like knowing what they're doing, right? They stumble upon it. And then when they get
Sure.
inside, it's like, well, where do I go next? What do I do next? So you need to light the path for them and show them what is the next step for them. And so we have these roles, these positions, and then when they validate, then they become an agent. And we've made an agent almost like being a partner in a law firm. And they have associates working underneath them, just, we call them junior producers. And it's when they get to that point where they're an agent, they are so good. Like the person right now in my office that's doing auto quoting, they'll do 35 to 40 auto quotes in a week. And they do it until they are a ninja at it, right? And then we were like, okay, you know that very well. Now we're going to have you do flood quoting. You're going to do that for an entire quarter, and you're going to do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those, and you're going to become an expert. And then we're going to move you to all the other lines of business. Then we're going to do home. And you go through that process. You are very, very good at what you're doing when we make you an agent.
That's very cool. I don't know if everybody heard you when you were talking about 10 million in new green business in the year 2023, in a year that, me included, there are many, many people who've been in this industry a long, long time, and they'll say the current hard market we're in is the hardest they've ever seen. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that? Are
I'm
you
on
in
the
that
same
same
boat. The
boat?
only difference is that because I'm in Florida, I've been in this hard market for the last 5 years. So it's not new to me this
Right.
year. It's something that I've been dealing with for the last 5 years, and it's absolutely gotten worse. And I can see, the things that were in Florida are now all across the US right now. And, I had to make a
Mm-hmm.
decision probably 3 or 4 years ago how to solve it and how to approach it differently. And we're still now in the process of trying to build out, one of the things, so there's a lot of things in my mind now when I talk about like what's the hard market, what are we facing, and how do we tackle it, right? One, it's mindset, right? If we keep beating ourselves up and telling everyone how bad it is, we're never going to get through and try to find the light wherever there is light. And
Right.
so part of it, what we had to do is we had to overstaff. So we had to add people before we thought was necessary because creating a reliable experience became harder, right? It became, we needed more time to work on things. We had to be creative. We needed better minds around, kind of finding solutions. So we had to overstaff. And now what we're in the process of doing, and this is really new level stuff, is when you think about it and you say, what's unique about what you're doing? And every agent that's listening to this needs to think about their own operation and say, what is unique about what I'm doing? Because if you're facing a hard market, the carriers on the other side are saying, well, who should I partner with? If I'm going to give capacity to somebody, who is that going to be? And if you don't have a differentiating approach, you're going to get left behind. So, for example, maybe there's a different underwriting approach that you're taking. Maybe you're looking at things differently. You're trying to understand where they are profitable and make sure that you're matching business that you can write to what's profitable for them, being a true partner. But if you don't ask those questions and you're not trying to get in front of that, you're not going to get those opportunities. So we've had some additional capacity this year because we've formed those relationships and we've shown them how we're going to show up differently and what we're going to offer. And there's some things that I'm working on right now I can't share yet, but like think about your organization and how you onboard or recruit and go after a new client, right? So we already told you everything is referral based. So if we've got it coming in as a referral, that's a whole lot better than any other type of marketing generally. And then you've got to look at it again and go, okay, how can I make sure this is a profitable client for the carrier? And match it, like I said, match what they want with what we have, right? So we got a lot of opportunities, and it's then just trying to figure out where to put them. But yeah, it's hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard right now, and but there is opportunity. Whenever there's pain and disruption and challenges, there's opportunities in that same space, and
Exactly.
it's just about how you look at it.
Th- Thank you for saying that. There's opportunity. Yes, that's what I've been saying for a year and a half now. And I haven't worked in a market like Florida before, or California or Texas or wherever. It's tougher. Um, you guys have probably had the toughest of any state in the country. And I remember when it started, Hurricane Andrew hit in the south of your state, just west of Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And that was back when, in the 90s,
92,
a
92.
long time ago. Yeah, 92. So 30 years ago. And when that started, construction standards changed. Oh my gosh. Homestead, Florida was gone. And the little town of Florida, Homestead, was gone. And from that point on, carriers have pulled out. You've probably seen in 18 years how many carriers. It's a watch list now of what carriers are going on receivership today. So most of us don't have that. There's 45 plus states don't have those issues like you have. And I've talked with other agents in Florida, and everyone wants to say, well, it's all because you got the worst weather. That's not necessarily the case. I know what you guys have gone through with your tort, and your attorneys have really messed up the system, and roofers and claims, all of that. We don't need to go into all that. We spend hours and hours on it. So it's not just weather. That's part of it, and probably a good part of it, but there's other factors too that just the overall industry within your state needs reform and needs adjusting to bring it more to current day standards, so that we're not having this constant freak out every August, September, October, when the spinning little circles come up from the ocean and cause you all kinds of havoc. They do every year, like you said before we got on board. You're used to it. This is your normal. But it does make it harder when there's less and less partners, people to partner with, carriers to partner with, and viable ones, because been in this 18 years. You had carriers 18 years ago that you would have thought you're your partner for life, and their doors are now closed. And you would have never thought that for a heartbeat, that would ever happen. So how have you managed to, so to speak, roll with the punches with the volatility of the market in your state?
So I remember, when I kind of started 18 years ago, the first couple of years we had done really well. We had a really good process of building relationships with partners and, building that trust. And we had 50 markets. So, there was a lot of domestic markets. There was a lot of companies that said, we're going to only operate in Florida. We're going to figure it out here. And it's a different business model, right? So you fast forward 10 years and, 25 of those 50 markets went out of business. In the last, half of them. In the last 2 or 3 years, I think it was like 11 or 12. And so we had to move all those policies. So you had to figure out how to be efficient, right? So if something took 5 minutes, you're like, how do I make it take 4 minutes? And decentralizing some of the activity and the work to make it as efficient as you possibly could. So that was one thing. We knew we had to figure that piece of it out. And now, where we are right now, I think we're at rock bottom of the hard market. We have 4 available options. So we went from 50 to now we have 4, and one of them is the state insurer. And so what we had to do is, basically navigate that for everyone. And we had to get really good at being creative and, again, figuring out solutions. But we've got 4 options. But, as you said, it was mostly a litigation problem. So that's really where it all started. That's been fixed, and they got so greedy that they got cut off at the knees, right? So the data was so compelling that I think it was like 152,000 litigated claims in Florida. The next highest state was like 3,000. That was California. So they were abusing the system badly, off the charts. So they really shot themselves in the foot, right? So they got one-way attorney fees are gone, assignment of benefits. They'll find another loophole. But the problem right now is really about reinsurance. And that's the problem all throughout the country is, if you're paying 40, 50, 60% in reinsurance, the economics of the model doesn't work. And so you've got to, we just got to ride the wave a little bit. And the good news is we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing rock bottom. For the first time in 9 years, the first quarter in Florida, they actually had an underwriting profit, very small. But it was the first time they weren't losing billions and billions of dollars. So the tide is turning a little bit, and now we're waiting just for more capital to come back. And the bright side, and unfortunately it's bad for our consumers, is the rates have been really high. So premiums have gone crazy. So I remember I told you the average was 600, and now the average is like 1,900. And in South Florida, the average is like 3,000, 4,000. So there's a lot of premium there. So someone's going to come into this market and figure it out. And what we did was we are investing in the relationships, as we said, so that when the market does turn, where most of the other agents have turned their back on their relationships because they didn't have any choice, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the staff, and they just couldn't handle it. So we just doubled down on the relationship, and we're ready to really crush it over the next couple of years because we're very well positioned now.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying, if I can summarize what you just said, is survive this hard market and you will come out on the back end so much better off than you were going into it, like you won't even believe. So I've had, for example, I consult with a lot of newer agents, just because they seek me out, and I tell them right now, listen, there's a lot of people are telling you worst time ever to be an agent. And I tell them, no, not true. First off, you don't know what it was like before. If you're starting now, you don't have a benchmark to measure against. So all you know is what it is today when you're getting started. So you got nowhere to go where? Up. And if you go up in this market, guaranteed, you're not only going to survive, you're going to succeed immensely. So there's no better time than to get started in this. If you can get the carrier appointments, which is the key, because carriers are tough right now, they're tight. But if that can happen, if you can find that and make it happen, you're poised for massive success, just massive success. And you've said the same thing within your own agency. You guys are just going to be so poised to come out the other end, just light years ahead of everybody else and where you were before we started in this hard market. So kudos to you for recognizing that, because a lot of folks are sitting there with their heads down and just crying the blues, thinking, oh my gosh, I got to survive another day of my staff punching the clock at 5 o'clock and just thankfully going home and hoping they come back again tomorrow morning, because the environment that they built, it just wasn't built for this. So you can, the old saying goes, what's the definition of insanity? Well, stop doing the same thing over and over if it's insanity. So, make a change. Like you say, be different. Find a way to be different, whether it be with your staff and how you treat them, or whether it be with your clientele or your referral partners. Be different. What you're
Show
saying
up like
again,
nobody
you said
else.
it earlier, not show up like nobody else. And if I asked everybody who works for you, they all would be able to tell me that.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for us as leaders to control the narrative a little bit, because the narrative, you can listen to everything that's going on and the outside noise and all that kind of stuff, but like control what you can control. And what I look forward to speaking to agents about in October at Innovation is, what are you chasing? Like, what is your dream? What do you want to do? Like, we've let everything get, our hopes and dreams that we originally had, we let them just get beat down and we stop focusing on them. And your team needs to know where you're trying to go and help you get there. And then you also need to know where they're trying to go. What are they trying to accomplish? So I'm going to spend some time with everybody sharing that system and that process that we went through to kind of really change the narrative and what people are talking about, right? So I'm constantly looking at, when we're in a hard market, when things are really challenging for my team, how do I change what they're thinking about? And, disrupt it a little bit. Right. Like, put on a different event. Like we did an event last Saturday where we rented the whole pool cabanas and did a charity donation because the Jaguars donated it. And we invited our referral partners and we invited our team and their staff. And we did a great little tailgate. And we just said, like, you deserve a break and something really nice and a great experience. And it just shakes things up, right? So whenever you can shake things up, control the narrative, and show them what you're trying to accomplish. And we have some goals to get to that 5 million revenue number in the next year or two, and they know when they get there what happens for them. And we've laid that out for them, and they're all trying really hard to make sure clients don't leave us, to make sure that their sales numbers are hit, that their relationship meetings are hit. We're all trying to get to that number, but you need to show them where we are and control the narrative more, because if we let the outside world control it, we're doomed. We are absolutely doomed.
Yeah, no. That's where all the negativity resides. You can go out there and play in that sandbox, but that's not where you want to be. It's just not where you want to be. So great insight from you. We appreciate that. A couple other things I want to ask you about. I notice in just spying on your LinkedIn bio that you are heavily involved in your community. Rotary, Big Brother, Big Sister, Mission House. Tell us about why you get involved. Is it just a personal pride thing, or is obviously there's side benefits for your business, but
Yeah,
why do you do
it's
it?
probably one of the more important things to me is having an impact in the community, right? So it's one of our uniques and how we're different than the Geicos and the State Farms, and we're locally trying to make an impact in what we're doing, and it's been a mission of mine. And I've got some kind of like talk about like what am I dreaming about? What am I trying to accomplish? There's some things that I'm trying to accomplish in the community. I want to be the example for other people to follow on what to do in the community. And we've done some really cool things. And so, and I'll share with you something that's kind of new that we're doing is we're doing like extreme makeovers for nonprofits. And so you know how like Marcus Lemonis does the profit? I'm going to do the not for profit. And I'm going to go
Hmm.
into these, yes,
Mr.
I'm going to
Camping
go into these
World, yeah.
organizations and I'm going to sit down with the executive director. And I've already done one, and it's a huge success. But essentially, we're doing the videos for it right now, and hopefully, I can share it at Innovation if it gets done in time. But we went in there and we did a landscape renovation of the exterior. We did pressure washing. We cut down the trees. We went to the executive director and said, "What did you have in your budget that wasn't covered? What is your gaps? What are you missing?" And we set up for them to have an organizational assessment done by an expert, have strategic planning paid for them. We are doing a video day where we bring in a videographer to go through and help them record videos, because all nonprofits need the same thing. They need someone to help them with awareness, and they need something like to get the word out, a call to
Hmm.
action, and they don't have any skill set in marketing, and that's something that I know how to do. So I'm sharing, and we're doing a social media audit for them. So essentially what we're doing is we're going in and establishing what can be fixed and giving them momentum to make a difference. And so I started out, joining, the Rotary and the, doing the volunteering, and then I did the board stuff and chairing boards, and this is my next level, and I'm just keep trying to like, how can I make an impact? But I don't want a part-time job, right? So we've done the first one.
For sure.
And I built some of these packages together of like all my systems and stuff. And if people make a donation to charity, then it goes to kind of these makeovers that we're doing, which is really kind of powerful. So we just did the last one, and we raised $30,000 and completely changed that organization and put them on a completely different trajectory. And they weren't it wasn't going bad, but now they are in a whole nother stratosphere of success and helping
Hmm.
the most vulnerable in our community by getting involved. So I also get my team involved, and we decide how we're going to give back. So a portion of our profits goes to these things, and we started a donor advised fund where all the funds go in, and then we have nonprofits file for grants, and we help them, and my team and my family sit on that board, and we decide kind of where we want to make an impact. And so it's just really important to me to make a difference, to be an example on the community side, and I'm just getting started. I will eventually do that full time, and and that's kind of what my dream was. My dream for my business is to have 100% autonomy, so I can get out in the community and continue to make things better there. So that's why I believe in it, and that's kind of what the mission that I'm on right now.
That's about the coolest thing I've ever heard you talk about, because you truly are making a difference in that aspect. That's cool. So, how do you go about picking? I could talk. We could talk if I had your time. I could book you for days, and we could talk about all these things. Because here's what I'm going to summarize that up with. I can see in your mind when you start saying, here's something new that we're doing, because you're just so excited about this new thing, because it feels like to me that you sit back as an entrepreneur, tell me if I'm wrong, as an entrepreneur, and you look at things and you say, and that's pretty good, but how can we really make it better? How can we make this nonprofit go from a B minus grade to an A plus? They're good, but we want them to be great, good to great. And I could just see your smoke coming out of your ears, brother. And your brain's just working overtime. I could just see it. And the little smile on your face is like, it's so satisfying that I'm in a position to be able to do this. So talk about blessed. You truly are. You really, truly are. So good for you. I can't say enough about the things you do. That's why people love to listen to you, Billy, and you're so willing to share, and you're open to, share your ideas and your thoughts, because for whatever reason, God has gifted you with the ability to come up with ideas that just like, the light bulb went off. I got it. We can take these nonprofits from A to B to C and beyond, and it'll make a difference. And that's about the coolest thing ever. So good for you. Last thing I want to talk to you about before we're able to close this up is your family. So wife and 2 kids, and you have your oldest one
10th
is
grader.
now in high school.
15 years old,
Gosh.
and I was very strategic about my family too, and that's kind of why I got into the insurance business, so I could build the autonomy for it. And you always hear the thing of like, your kids, you spend 90% of the time with your kids from 0 to 18. And I've tried to really put myself in a position to not miss anything. And so I've got a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we've got all kinds of cool things that we're planning together. My son and I, he loves basketball, so we're going to go to every NBA arena together. We've gone to 4. He plans one, I plan one.
Cool.
We're doing the same thing with my daughter. She likes to go to concerts and shows, and we're putting those on the calendar. Yeah.
See that on my wall there?
Ah,
That's Major League ballparks.
love
You
it.
scratch them off
Love
after you
it.
visited.
Yep.
Same kind of thing with NBA. I've gone to
Oh, awesome.
18 out
Yeah,
of
I mean,
30.
that's like
So,
for me, again,
yep,
controlling the
yep.
narrative. I know that my son's going to get his driver's license in 6 months, and I'm never going to see him. So I've tried to intentionally make sure, planning
Yep.
on
Plan
us,
on it.
for the next 10 years when he's super busy, I'm going to tie him back to kind of getting that accomplished. And I've got an amazing wife. She helped me she's the secret to my success, and she helped me start the business. She's an occupational therapist, and she worked 90 hours a week when we started too. And she's like, go for it, go follow your dream and do it. And she's had the opportunity to stay home with the kids. She worked for like 3 or 4 years, crazy. And then once we got the business to a certain point, she stayed home, and she's been there every step of the way for the kids, raising the family. And our intention is to create memories. I call them magic moments, and we're constantly trying to do that together as a family. And that's again what it's all about, right? It's how do you create those memories?
For sure. Yep. Memories is what it's all about, for sure. So you gave us a little bit of a glimpse of what we may hear on the stage at Innovation in October in Chicago. And I'm going to share that with some of the folks in our group to encourage them to register if they haven't already, because they're not only going to listen to you, they're going to listen to 18 other presenters who are just, every one of them is out of this world in one topic or another. So I've never seen a speaker lineup like we've put together this year. So I want to thank you for being a part of that. I know folks are going to be really, really thrilled to hear you share what you have to share. You always come up with innovative and thoughtful ideas that have been thought out thoroughly. And not only that, you're going to show them ways to implement, not just, oh, here's our grand philosophy, take it and go home and think about it while you sleep Sunday night. And then Monday morning you come in and it's like, okay, now what do I do? That's not Billy. Billy says, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how you're going to do it. And on Monday morning, you can start at 6 a.m. and you're done before you know it, So that's what people are looking for: actionable items, actionable steps to be able to take it home and Monday morning put it into action. Not everything they learn from 18 presenters. That would be impossible. No one can do that. But pick and choose what's best for you, and listen to all of them. And then you have to pick and choose, because everybody tells you it's like drinking from a fire hose, because the information. That's what's so unique about our conference. We've never brought in a motivational speaker or a carrier CEO to talk about the state of the business. We've never done that. We've surveyed every year, we ask them that question, and it's resounding. Heck no. I want to hear from folks who can tell me on Monday morning what to do to make my agency more successful. And that's what you get from 18 people. So why would you want to hear? I could talk to a carrier CEO or a carrier rep all day long, every day of the week. Or I can go find motivation tons of places if that's what I need. And that's not what they want. And they're hearing it from their peers, independent agency owners, just like you and I, who are doing it in the trenches every day, every week, every month, and every year. And I want to thanks as we close out here. Thank you, Billy, for being on today. You're so gracious with your time. I know right before you got on with me, you were talking to another IAOA member, you told me. And so it's not surprising at all that you're willing to share your time with your peers in our industry to help make the independent agency.
Yeah, and I told him he better go sign up for Chicago, and he's going to do it as well. So hopefully you get a new registration soon, and it's absolutely my pleasure to, again, as I said earlier, what makes the hair on the back of my neck stick up is helping others, and that's my only motivation, is how can we help other people. And if I'm speaking from the stage, you can bet that I've prepared and I've spent a ton of time making sure that it's valuable, and I want to make sure you get a couple pages worth of notes from when I'm speaking. So I look forward to seeing everybody, and this is like it's like the family reunion, right? We get back together again, and it's all good when we can all get together and try to help each other win. So it can be lonely, but it doesn't have to be. So
for sure.
Yep.
Nope. All right, there you go, everybody. Wise wisdom words of speak from Mr. Billy Wagner. Billy, once again, thank you. We appreciate you having you on, and we will see you in Chicago. This is Captain Dave signing out to you, all of you in Collabcast land. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.